Okay, liefie. Dan moet jullie nou gaan en gaan, né? Sinkie, gaan jy saam TV gaan kyk? Okay, love you.
Ik kon niet de bomen kijken. Hala kalabu. Yes, het was een goede punt.
Wat?
Ja, laat die ja vaatse kan molantje. Maar gaboe vela. Okay. My name is Nhlanhla Hlongwane. It means the lucky one, if I can call it that. Actually a Zulu name, which means that you are lucky. You are the lucky one in the family or in the whole extended family or so on. You're one of the lucky ones that came throughout the generations from as far as they come from. Yeah, I know it. I don't believe it. I know it. That the name is actually something that was established for me before I was even born or whatever, because it suits the personality that I have. In regards, for example, I have an uncle who also has the same name, and we correlate a lot with each other in terms of how we do stuff and so on. So yeah, I think it does have a meaning. Okay. Yeah, so I come from a small town in the Eastern Free State, which is called pt.1, but the real name for it is Mama Fubedu. Yeah, I was born there, raised there for the rest of most of my primary years, from when I was born until I was 13. Stayed with my mom. Dad was working in Bloem. We were two brothers and a younger sister. So I'm the second born. My brother is the bigger brother. His name is Hlongwane, which I still don't know what the meaning of his name is. And then my second, the one after me, is Musuwe, which is more like a teacher type of thing. And then the last one is my Ladlamiki, they call it. Her name is Bulukehang. Yeah, so I come from I wouldn't say a bad family as such, but I come from a bit of a more uncomfortable way to say if I had an opinion or if I had my own viewpoint about how the marriage was, I would have most certainly would wanted a different marriage, what my parents had. So yeah, and then from there on I went to a primary school in Pietersburg, which is just purely Afrikaans. So there's no Sotho during break. There's no any other language except Afrikaans. So the whole time you will just speak Afrikaans from the morning at 7 when you clock in until 3:30 after practice for sports and stuff like that. There was a guy there by the name Koos Broncos, which is a very good figure in my life that I think where I learned most of my principles that I apply today. Yeah, then after the primary school I got the opportunity to come to Bloem in regards to the rugby and so on. I went to the school called RTS, which is from the year 2007 until 2011 where I matriculated there, which was more of, because it was actually the first time I came in a setup of a school where it's just not mostly white people, because I mean I was one of two black people in my classroom from grade 1 until grade 7. I was the guy and the other person was the lady. So yeah, when I came to RTS it was a different setup, because for the first time in my life you get to have the opportunity to sit in front of or in a classroom of 34 people, which is quite a lot because you don't get that attention. So I think that formed a different part of who I am. And then after school I went to the varsity youths, which where I started studying education. but the rugby was the main focus on that time. I didn't take the studies very much seriously because, you know, you had this dream of playing professional rugby and so on. And then, I think after school I went to the Cheetahs to work for them, and then afterwards I just continued with my work career. So the rugby was something that I can honestly say it formed part of who I am. The rugby, I think it gave me most of my personality. In primary school, I mean, there were different sports and so on, but the guys would just, because we were not a lot, so the guys would just go play rugby. So you play rugby before school starts at 7, while the grass is still full of moist or whatever you call it. And then from there on, you just go to class, break time, you play rugby again. After school, you play rugby before you practice, and then you go to practice. So rugby became something that I associated myself with very much. I ended up playing some quite good rugby during primary school, high school, and in my last year at high school, I ended up playing SE schools, which was a very pinnacle point in my rugby that actually formed this whole concept of saying, listen, I'm one of the guys that could have made it in school in that team. The rugby, it's a very specific part of my life that I just cannot get over with. I still cannot quit it, because it's the only place where I get to express myself in regards to my abilities, except work now specifically. But rugby is something that I can still show the bit of talent that I still have, and I'm struggling to leave it there. It was a relationship, but that was very distorted in the side of my father. I mean, their father was never someone that is involved, if I can call it that. He didn't actually have that father figure that he would have wanted, and I think it actually played a role in terms of how it folded down to us from generation to generation, whereby my mother was born in a family that was tight. I mean, it was 9 sisters and 3 boys. So everyone was tight. The oldest sister was the one that got the opportunity to go study, and after she studied, she went to work as a teacher, and then from there on, she passed on like a salary to help the rest to study, and then that's how this whole generation turned in terms of them. But they grew up in 2 different worlds, if I can call it that, because my dad is actually a Zulu guy. Where he's actually originally from KZN, which there's a town there in Westville that is still called the Zulu town, if you can call it, because everyone's surname was at a time just Zulus. But I mean, after time and so on, those stuff changed. Where my mother is actually Sotho, where they have their own principles and they do their things differently. But if I can put it like that, I think they were raised in 2 different ways. Till this very day, it's still something that's deep, if I can call it that. With my dad, you know, that one thing that you've always wanted, that acceptance, if I can call it that, that you never got. And that's why during this time of my life, I'm trying to fight the fact that I don't want to actually feel accepted. I don't want to do something for you to accept me or to give me recognition or anything like that. So it is something that is a very sensitive thingy for me. If I have to open up about it, it will be something that is for anyone to hear. It is something that I regret, that things went different, because he was actually never there. To give you an example, when I came to high school, he was in Bloem, And in the 5 years of my high school career, while he was in Bloem, I never saw him. I actually saw him twice, which is at a place, once was it by a rugby practice, and the second time was when, I don't think I want to talk about that one, but actually it's nothing that I'm ashamed of. He had an affair with someone here in Bloem, where the daughter was actually in the same class as me. And so once, I actually laugh about it. So once we're sitting in class, and this is still something about my relationship with my father. So now I'm in grade 8, and it's the time where your blazer gets dirty, and so this guy decides to take my blazer with on a Sunday back to Bloem, and he was going to give it to me Monday. And Monday he gives me the blazer, and he says, "Yeah, here's your blazer." But my blazer was a bit torn because of the rugby and stuff like that during break time. And when I opened my blazer, I was like, "Gee, man, did my dad actually fix this? Did he really do this?" I'm like, "Yo." But I only realized that when he left. And I think it was 3 days later, this lady just turns to me and says, "Listen, Papa, we don't for blazer back." Yeah, so that actually means, listen, your dad said, or my dad actually said, "You must give me my blazer back," and so on. So which is, it is stuff that I now get to laugh about, but I mean, it took a long time for me to get over those stuff. But so that's the type of relationship that I had. But actually, on a different note now, things are much better. We communicate like not on a regular basis, but now and then we get to speak. But that actually shaped my whole life and so on. Yeah, they are. And the key moment, the first one that comes to my mind is when I was in grade 7, and we had a quarrel at home, and my dad said, "Listen, I'm already in Bloem, so I can make that dream of you coming out of this town impossible." And I can remember I ran out of the house, stood by the street, and said to myself, "Listen, you go into a hostel. You have a bursary for your education, for your transport, for everything. You actually don't need anything from him. So from now on, I'm going to make sure that I take up the responsibility that is mine." And I think that was the key moment in my life where I decided to say, I'm taking responsibility for whatever happens, because this guy just showed me that he doesn't care much. And I think the other key moment in my life is when I met my wife, obviously. I had to make a decision in terms of the whole Christianity behind being involved in a church and so on. I made a decision to say, listen, because actually someone asked me to choose between my wife and my ministry, and I said, listen, I know what I'm going to do, and I ended up choosing my wife, and that was also a key moment in my life. I believe there's a God, and who has a Son, which is Jesus Christ, and the whole Trinity. I believe that. I believe that there's a life after this life that we have. I believe that Jesus actually came to give us a second chance, if I can call it that. So and to actually say that I believe it is quite a sensitive thing, because I'm actually someone who actually notices a lot, and it is difficult for me to answer that, because the way my behavior is sometimes does not actually correspond and correlate with actually saying I believe in the God or I believe in Jesus, because there's certain things that are in me or that are part of me that I cannot just change. But my behaviors, they don't support that as much as it should. But at the end of the day, it is by faith that I say that I believe in Jesus and I believe in the Holy Spirit and God. Yeah, I have a lot, because there's and I'm gonna try and give it in a way that it how I explain it to myself the whole time. The mere fact that I have a kind of a not normal relationship with my father, it gave me the concept to say, listen, how can there be a God? How can I expect something from someone if my own dad hasn't even given me anything? And when I say anything, I mean a pair of shoes or a school shirt or whatever. So the doubting part is linked between my father and God, or Jesus himself. There's some stuff that I need to accept about him, but it's difficult. It's a difficult thing. But the faith thing side of it helps me a lot, because I say, even though I don't feel like it, that I should have believed to accept something from Jesus or the higher power, whatever, I still doubt it sometimes. I still doubt it, yeah. That's actually a good question. And I was actually hoping that you would ask me that. Yeah, so my biggest desire and ambition and goal, if I can call it that, is to be the person that I'm actually supposed to be, which is to be the Nhlanhla Hlongwane that has meaning and purpose and understanding why am I here on earth. And not get to a point in my life where I cannot do any certain things anymore and look back and have any regrets. And to make sure that the life that I have is actually the life that I live to the fullest. That is actually my deepest or my biggest desire or goal or whatever, is to be that person that when I look myself in the eye, I can be proud of and say, listen, you took up the responsibility and you bear it with compassion and with endurance and with character and with humility, to say, listen, I took up the responsibility. That's the biggest thing for me, actually. Well, I mean, there's a voice in my head, which is for everyone, actually, or I would like to believe for everyone, that some people call it your conscious, some people call it your inner man, some people call it or whatever, but I call it the Nhlanhla Hlongwane that I'm supposed to be. He's like more of a judge to me, because he's never happy, and that's actually what keeps me going. Is if I perform a certain thing at my work or my relationship with my wife or my relationship with my kids, there's always something telling me you can do better than that, and that's actually the thing that I'm chasing after. I don't think that anyone can say that they have arrived at a point where they say they have lived their fullest potential or living their fullest potential, because the goal is always shifting. It's always moving forward, and the aim is part of life is to go through that process of saying, okay, after I've achieved this, what's next, until you can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Boeremark. Did he tell you about the Boeremark? So one day I'm like, listen, let's just go to the Boeremark, please. So we all dressed up, ready to go. We go around the corner, he's like, are you recording? So he's like, daar's nie 'n fucking manier dat ek hier uitklim nie. Jy gesien hoe fucking wit is dit? Okay. So my name is Marné, And my mother gave it to me. It was just a beautiful name to her, and it means the one that stays close to Jesus. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yes, no, really, every day. It feels like, it's almost like the way I gave my children their names as well. It's like, it's something so significant to each person, and definitely my name definitely means something to me. And I can just think about my name and know I'm not alone. I don't need to fear anything or feel alone or scared or anything, because I know He's there. So yeah. Okay. So I was born in Bloemfontein. When I was, I think, a few weeks old, my parents moved to Kimberley, and I grew up there. Me and my mom, we were alone a lot because my dad had to work a lot, and so we had a very good relationship when I was very young. And then my brother came. When I was 3 years old. That was quite, for a child being spoiled as much as I was it quite interesting to hear all the stories that come with it. So so he came when he was 3 years old, when I was 3 years old, and we had a very good childhood. My parents were very involved in church. My father was part of the elders and the deacons and everyone, and we were also very involved with everything that the church did, and with the family, and the family of, like, the pastor, the head pastor, and everyone. We were very good friends with them as well. And so me and Marnes, we grew up knowing God very well, and we had a very good relationship with Jesus, not just because our parents kind of forced us to go to church, but we also had a person in our life, our children's church teacher. He played an amazing role in our lives. So I think I was 6 years old when I, on my own one day when I was worshipping, just got my tongues. So it was really amazing to know I experienced stuff like that. And then my mother found out that she's pregnant with Lucky, and he was born when I was 9 years old. So he's a very late comer, but it was according to us, we still had a very good life. My dad spoiled us a lot. He wasn't there much, but he was a good father. He cared for us a lot. And it was only much later that we realized things are not so good. So, and apparently it already started before my mom found out she's pregnant with Luan. So it was quite interesting to see how she changed over the years. And when we moved back to Bloemfontein, I think in 2001, I went to Oranje there then. Lucky and Marnes went to Willem Bosma and so on. And so we just grew up like these spoiled rich kids. And very normal. We had this perfect picture, actually. We had this beautiful house, we had beautiful cars. My dad bought a new car every year, and so we were very spoiled. And but we never realized actually that there's anything missing ever. And it only started when I was like 15 years old. That's when things really started getting out of hand, and they got divorced when I turned 21. And that's when Kaka and I got together just before the divorce.
How did that affect you, the divorce?
Well, it actually, he came at a time in my life where I kind of needed someone, and he was always there. He always listened. And first I thought, no, I'm going to be the strong girl. I'm finally glad they're getting a divorce because this is bad. And it's only after the divorce, like after 2 months or 3 months, that it really got bad. And where my emotional health just got to a place where it was just too bad. It's just, I couldn't handle a job, I couldn't handle anything, so I just kind of went into this bubble, and he's the one who got me out of it. I started going to church again, we started visiting and being together more, and so that's kind of how I coped, is being with him. So he was like my best friend. Well, my plan was to leave for America. I really wanted to go to Bethel to join their music team there. They have this big music training for 3 months, and then you either can stay and be part of the music team, or you can come back to South Africa. So my idea was to go for the 3-month training for the school and then see where life takes me. I did study though, so wherever I was, I could do beauty wherever I was. So the idea was that if I want to stay in America, then I can at least get a job there. So I don't know. The first idea I wanted to do was just run away and just try and cope with it. But it's really interesting how life just takes you to places where you just have to deal with it and go on with it, go on with life. So and it's been 7 years, 7 years after their divorce, and it's not really changed. So I don't know if the divorce was actually a good thing in the end. So it didn't really get better or anything. So no, it's really, what else? I think I had everything. Okay. So my brother, me and Marné, we have a very good relationship. As kids, we fought a lot, but that's normal for everyone. But when we got older, it was kind of us three against them. So we kind of teamed up together, and because me and Marné both had that stable beginning phases of our lives, we did a lot of stuff together at church. So we both went to band together. We went to prayer meetings together. We did evangelism together. So we had a very fun thing where we could talk to each other and just know what each other think. Luki was much younger than us, so he had a very rough time with being in the house with my parents through the chaotic time of their lives. So we kind of tried to protect him against it, and it didn't always work because they kind of used him as a beacon in between the two of them. So till today, I still feel like protecting him all the time. He's 21 now. He's got a girlfriend, and sometimes I tell KK, like, I wish I can teach him the things that I did wrong so that he doesn't make the same mistakes, because he's an amazing child, and I think he's going to be an amazing husband one day. He does have a lot of issues and stuff, but I just wish I can protect him like the little baby he was. And he was also preemie, so so we it was a difficult pregnancy, a difficult labor. We almost lost my mother, and everything was just bad. So with Luki, it's always that we just want to protect him against everything and anything that he can get hurt against. And so me and Marné and Luan, we kind of like a unit. But we do have our differences, especially me and Marné, because he's got a very strong personality like my father. He's also a doctor, so I mean he doesn't think of the consequences of what he says. He just says the truth and you got to deal with it. So the two of us, we differ a lot because he doesn't know what it is like to struggle in life. He's also got a wife that's very strict. So the two of them, he's like the lamb between the two of them. And then when he comes to me, it's like he's get his time to be the husband. And then I'm like, listen, you're not my father and you're not my husband, so you can't tell me what to do. And he does that with Luan as well. I think because he feels that we didn't have my dad to always be there for us. He really wanted to play the father part between the three of us. And there was a stage in my life where I kind of wanted to cut him out because it was just too much, where I'm the sinner and I'm this. I mean, how can you get married and have a child 6 months later, and why don't you think? Why don't you just buy a house? Why doesn't Keiko just get this job? Or he's just like, where I'm this person where I just do what I feel is right at the moment, and I do what makes me happy. And he doesn't do that. He thinks long before. So but okay. So my mother is an interesting character. My mom and I had a very good relationship when I was before Marné came. But there came a stage that she, because my dad wasn't at home that much, she kind of blamed herself that he's not home and that she's doing everything on her own. And she was really, really strict, and she had very bad OCD and things like that, depression, and she's a very strong person. She was raised by my grandfather as this, you're not allowed to cry, just get up and get it done with. Like, she wasn't allowed to be vulnerable ever in her life. And then I think when I was 4 or 5 years old, it started kicking in when our relationship really got bad. I wasn't allowed to cry in front of her, and I had to dress like she wanted me to dress, and my hair was cut the way she wanted it to be cut, and because we had to upkeep this picture that she had in her mind to let everyone else think we are this perfect picture, but inside it wasn't. So I had this perfect bob blown out every day. It was really bad. And she, so because of her being so badly with the OCD, she affected me a lot with that. So I had a very bad experience with tasty sensititeit. Like I couldn't I couldn't like touch anything dirty or play with clay or touch sand. I never walked barefoot, things like that. And I never realized that it affected me so much until I got older, and especially when I had my kids. I felt that she took a lot away from me. So, and I think there came a stage where my father thought the world of me. Like, I was his princess, I was his everything. So if he goes somewhere, I get a present. If we go to Ocean Basket, he gives me his card and I can shop as much as I want. And she didn't like that. So it kind of became this jealousy thing. So she totally pushed me out of her life. And we never had a normal mother-daughter relationship ever. So when I was a teenager, stupid things like she wouldn't even talk to me about normal questions that I had about my body or a boyfriend or a guy I liked, or why is my body reacting this way, or anything like that. So she was just like, this is it, deal with it. And there was times that she tried to kind of try and connect with me more, but yeah, no, it never really recovered after that. And especially when Keika and I got together, it got really bad. So, because now her picture is broken. So, her picture was, the picture was a big thing for us. So, we even, till today, we have this thing with her that don't take a picture of us if we are unhappy. If we are fighting now, don't take a picture and tell us to smile, because we don't like that. Yeah, she still does that. And she had was a scrapbook shop, so everywhere she had these pictures of us and laughing. We always had to laugh in the pictures. She would always tell us, tell a joke, or like, and then we're like, why? We don't want to tell a joke now. We're not laughing now. So, but I understand also that's her way of coping with everything that she went through as well. And my dad is also a very interesting person. He, like I said, he wasn't really there a lot. So what I did with him was that if he would come home, I would play I'm sick, because that's the only way I would get attention. So I was always sick when he got home. So in the end, he started keeping like those times you had chewable Panadus in your. So he kept them in his pocket. And then when he comes home, then he's like, I've got just the medicine for you to fix you for this one. And so he just carried on with that. He kind of he was the doctor in the house. So, and as we got older, there was a time where I kind of blocked out. I don't know what happened or why. So things did happen, but I think we just kind of blocked it out. And when we became teenagers, we started realizing that he's trying so hard to give us a life, but we just want his attention. And the more we try to explain to him, but we just want to spend time with you, the harder he worked, because he thought that, okay, but then I'm going to work harder so that we can go overseas. But there was never enough money to go overseas. So then he literally just threw himself into his job. And we never understood that until when they decided that this is it. Because they tried to get divorced a few times. I think it was, I'm not even lying, I think 8 times. And so the last time, then he started speaking to us, and he told us, listen, but the reason I was never home was because of this and this and this. And he still today is not a person that will speak about his personal life or how he feels. He's also not a person that will ask me, so are you guys okay? Do you need anything? Can I help you with something? He's not a person like that at all. He's your doctor. So when you're sick, you can call him. But and we kind of learn the way we can connect with him is by talking to him about medicine. So that is how I kind of sharpened up my anatomy, because my knowledge of anatomy and physiology and everything, because I wanted to know what he's talking about. So because the way for me to speak to him was to ask him, so what interesting patient did you have today? And that's the only way he talked. That's the only way he connected. So it was really sad, and it only became sad when I realized, but that's not normal. And we had an incident maybe in this week as well, and I went to him and I'm like, are you okay? Like, will you talk to me? And he was like, no, I'm fine. I'm really fine. Like, you don't have to worry about me. And then I'm like, but okay. And then he's like, but are the kids well? Did you give them their antibiotics and everything? And I'm like, Daddy, they are healthy now. Don't worry about them. And he's like, no, but I hear your nose is running. You must drink this and this and this. And then I'm like, Daddy, just stop. For 2 seconds, just stop and be my dad. And I actually looked at him and I'm like, now I'm here as your daughter, and you as my dad, not as my doctor. And I think it was the first time we kind of connected, and where he realized, listen, sure, okay. So we'll see how that goes further. But me and him, we've had so many ups and downs, and I lost a lot of time with him because of his wife, and she took a lot of personal things between me and him that really hurt. But he didn't really choose us, so we kind of have to make peace with the fact that what he chooses is what he wants for his life. So at this stage, I just want to try and support my mom and my dad in a way that I don't get involved in their lives, because it affects me too much, and it affects my marriage a lot. So yeah. Done a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I think, like, especially when I go through things with my marriage, then I'm like, nothing they went through is that bad. So I feel that they were so selfish and so caught up in their little bubble that they never thought of us. And especially me, Marné is the star child, so he's just always the best and the greatest, and everyone talks about him as the awesomest thing that is on 2 legs. So, but I was always the one kind of just there. So it hurts to think that my dad tried to make me part of everything, but it's never like that. It's never fact that he can literally like say, listen guys, just give her a chance to speak, or so not one of them actually stood up for me ever. So the resentment in my heart is quite a lot about a lot of stuff, where I just felt they were supposed to be the grown-ups, and we had to become grown-ups really, really quickly, and especially me, because there was a stage that my mom just refused to be the mother. So I was 16, and I had to literally, he would take me to Checkers to buy the groceries. I had to make the food. I had to make sure the boys do their homework. I had to do everything. So I had to become a mother really, really quickly. So yeah, I think that. Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, it was quite interesting. It's actually, I haven't thought of it in a while. Well, definitely that pastor that I talked about, like, that was definitely something that shaped me. It was, I don't really know actually what exactly he taught us, but just knowing that the person that he was just an sorry. It was just an amazing, he was a really key factor in my life. The way I served God, the way I knew that there is a God. Because he was just, I don't know, he was just amazing. The way he treated us. He was, I know now he went through a lot of stuff, but like, we've never actually ever spoken again. So he doesn't even know the amount of impact he had on my life. So definitely him. Something negative that I can think of the top of my head is that I don't cry in front of people ever. Yeah, so I had one experience where I wanted to tell my mother to say, listen, I'm sorry about something and I don't want to fight. And I started crying and she started laughing at me. And since then I've never, I do cry, but I'll never cry in front of someone, or especially her. Yeah, so, and I've never opened up ever again to her after that. And I think that's kind of a big problem, especially for a daughter, because you do need your mother in certain areas in your life. Yeah, something like that. And a lot of people, I've had a lot of women in my life, as clients, as family, that have impacted the woman inside of me. Like, there's a lot of people, but certain strong people in my life, like Auntie Sinette and Pastor Sari, and people that have really inspired me to become a better woman, and to literally decide that I don't need to go through the same route as what I went through, with experiencing what my parents went through. So I think that's why it's so hard to, when you go through things, I put so much pressure on myself that I shouldn't go through that, because I want to be a good wife and I want to be but it's definitely, these women have played a very big role in my life to inspire me to be a mother, to love, to forgive. That was a big thing for me. So I think that is kind of the key moments I can think of that really shaped me into, Okay. The only way I can explain it is that whenever you start doubting I grew up Christian. I grew up in a happy clappy church. So I have been exposed to Holy Spirit filled churches since I was a baby. So I do believe in Jesus and that he died for us and that he rose again and that he is coming back again. So, but you get times in your life where you like, is this real? Is this kind of, and I think it's certain ages that I've had where I could see that. But something that always reminds me is if you just look at your body, the way your body works, the way you just breathe and just be able to stand up every morning is such an amazing miracle to me. And especially when I was pregnant, it's like you lie there and you're like, God, how can someone not believe in you? Because this is such an amazing experience. And it's just, I think that's why I believe that every woman should go through that. I'm sad that men can't experience that because it's the closest I've ever felt to God, where you literally feel that baby moving inside of you. It's just, you cannot not believe that he exists. And every time you go through something hard, every time you feel like, this time I'm going to die. This time I won't be able to make it. Even when you're in labor, you're like, I can just die now. And then you're like, and then that baby comes out and you feel a love that you cannot explain to a single person. I cannot even explain that love to my husband. It's a thing that the pain you've just experienced, and you look at that child and you think, God, thank you for being alive. Thank you for, I cannot believe in anything else because of that. It's just, it's amazing to experience that. It's amazing to be able to talk to people. And I'm not a person that forces my religion on anyone, ever. But through my testimony and through things that I've went through, I've had people that I haven't spoken in 5 years, 6 years. Then they all of a sudden message me on Facebook and they're like, hi Marné, I just want to tell you, thank you for inspiring me. I just gave my life to God. And it's like, it's not something I do. It's just something that I believe that I want God to shine through me. I don't want to force it. And that was the amazing part for me. It's just that's all I believe. I've never believed in anything else. And I can't, because I've had too much where I just know that he's alive. Well, being a good mother is not easy. So, and being a good wife is even harder. So I really want to just be a good mother and a good wife. And I don't really have a lot of views for myself, but a lot for my family, just for the four of us, and especially for KK. I think my biggest thing for him is to realize his worth. And that's my everyday goal, is so that he can realize that he is just an amazing person. And he doubts himself a lot. So, and basically that is what I do all the time. And yeah, I wanna be able to have my own time and be a woman that just explores. I wanna go overseas and with him and just have fun, and I haven't had fun yet. So all I've done is I've studied, I've went to school, studied, worked, got married, had kids, and I think that's something I always tell younger girls, that you have to make a choice when you want to have the fun, and you have to stick with it, because now I'm not going to have fun for a while. And so I hope one day that we can be at a place where we can just enjoy each other and spend time together and see the world. And but my biggest thing is I really want to testify how good God was for me and in my marriage, especially because it is a marriage that not a lot of people understand. And yeah, we'll get to that later, but it's something that I don't want people to see. It's not a color thing for me. I want people to understand it's because of the love of God inside of us that we can love each other. And that is kind of my vision for us, to one day be able to talk to people and help other people going through that. And because it's not just an interracial marriage that goes through things, it's every marriage on this planet that have their own kind of little things. And my biggest thing is to help people in their marriages. And I always say to KK that because we have that idea for our future, that is why we go through so many things. So because you need to kind of have a background before you can help other people. So but yeah, it's basically I want to just enjoy life with him and with the kids, and have a good life for them and teach them the things that a lot of other children don't get to learn. How to love other people without judging them for who they are, how they look like, what they believe. I just want people to love each other, and that's my main goal, just to teach them how to love. No, that's a big question. If you take the religion, no.
Your purpose. I know it's linked to your religion, maybe, but
no, okay, but
Marné.
if you do take the whole religion thing into account, it is to help people to know who God is. And but I've got a little bit of a different way of doing that. So I just love making people feel safe and loved. So I believe that's something that God put in me as a purpose, to teach people that love isn't something unconditional. I mean, it's not something you can. It's not something you choose. You choose or you feel. It's something you decide. And I've had the privilege of being able to talk to a lot of people about that. So I believe that is kind of my purpose, to make people feel safe in an environment where they can open up and be themselves. And yeah, so that's what I believe.
Okay.
Okay.
Part 1 done.